welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena and Sid, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app because you want to know why. Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can watch any of our other 5 live shows throughout the week. You ever to miss them, you can watch them and listen to them on the replay at your own leisure. So make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app today. Also, make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to catch the podcast version of Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type this in your search engine boxes. Ready? WARR on Anchor, and that's on all podcast platforms where we are available. And also, you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun here. We have very definite opinions. You have any opinions on any of our topics during today's 2-hour extravaganza we call a sports radio show? You can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid, or as the kids would say, at ignorant, I've given King full boat to give you the beer lane be a boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. And speaking of giving the opponents the boot, Lakeena, let's kick off this Friday edition of Second City Sports by discussing baseball. Of course, we had the crosstown showdown earlier this week at the friendly confines. The Chicago White Sox booted the Chicago Cubs in 2 straight games by the scores of 3-1 and 4-3. The White Sox offense kind of turned it around. And on the flip side, their starting pitching was the main story. Lucas Giolito had 10 strikeouts on Wednesday, while Micah Kopech had 5 in 4 2/3 innings. On the flip side for the Cubs, their offense showed up in Game 2 of the series, but their bullpen and their starting pitching couldn't hold it. In Game 1, there was a lack of offense that couldn't cross home plate and a comedy of errors which soon followed. With both teams now still under 500, in particular the Chicago Cubs, now 6 games out of 500. What will the season bring for both of our baseball teams? Let's start off with the White Sox first, Lakeena. They are 2 games under 500. They have a 3-game series at Boston against the Red Sox, which kicks off tonight. Remember, folks, tonight's game is at 6:10 p.m. Central Standard Time on Apple TV+. One more again, as young folks would say. Tonight's game at 6:10 p.m. at Boston. You can see that game exclusively on Apple TV+.
Yeah,
if
so
you don't know,
sorry.
go get it. Go Google it. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so unfortunately, no NBC Sports Chicago, unfortunately. So sorry, White Sox fans. I don't know what else to tell you. You maybe try to see if you can stream it somewhere, or maybe if you have a friend who has Apple TV Plus on there as a streaming platform. But yeah, that's the only way you'll be able to watch that first game. Now going into this series, there really wasn't a lot of buzz about it. I really didn't hear too much about it. All this excitement. I think there are a couple of reasons. One, the fact that this was in the beginning of the week. You have people working still. You couldn't get a lot of the kids. You couldn't really go as a family unless you lived near Wrigley. And also, too, I mean, both teams I know the Sox are kind of were right there, the mediocre, kind of right at 500. The Cubs are kind of, like right below it. So there really wasn't a lot of buzz about it. But, what, the Cubs had those chances to try to maybe split the series. They didn't. The pitching, I think we finally saw the pitching, the Sox pitching that we'll come to expect. Now, can they carry that over to the series against Boston, who's had their struggles? We'll wait and see. Now, as far as the Cubs are concerned, I mean, just sort of, you really didn't see too much. They had their shots. I think they had the bases loaded. I think the second game, they could have, put the game open, perhaps put themselves in the position to win that game. They didn't. So, that's that there. So I think this was sort of, there really wasn't a lot of, pizzazz about it. And you had like, little things here and there about, little, division and whatnot among families and couples, but there really wasn't a lot of buzz. And I think if you're going to have a series like this, a crosstown series in the middle of the week, where you have folks still going, kids still going to school and whatnot, I think
Mhm.
there's always going to be a lot of you know people weren't really talking about it as much, and probably because of the way the position both teams are right now.
And you bring up a great point when it comes to that. Mostly with the White Sox, their record was 4 games under 500 at the time. If they were 4 games over 500, I think it would have been a little bit more of a buzz. Number two, you schedule it, as you mentioned, at the middle of the week, where you and I and everybody else who has a logical mind knows that all of April and early part of May, we have crappy weather around here.
Hmm.
So Commissioner Rod Manfred, get it together.
That's
Sorry,
a whole
sorry.
different conversation
Yeah,
for another time.
but
So
and also this year too, especially with the Cubs and Sox, Yankees, Mets, Angels, Dodgers, you only played those city rivals 4 times, two in each ballpark. So that's another problem right there, which brings up to number three. You usually schedule those games later on in the season, in the summer, June, July, and even August now with at least one series it features interleague play now since the schedule's open right now. You could have scheduled that later. So whoever thought
mhm.
that this was a great idea to schedule it in May, this makes no sense. And don't tell me that they couldn't schedule it at a later point in the year. You could have. You just lazy and stupid. That's BS. So I'll leave it at that. And then get back to the analysis on the actual games. As we mentioned, Sox pitching, as we said before, they're led by Dylan Cease. I know he didn't pitch in this series, but the White Sox are led by Dylan Cease. Lucas Giolito stepped up on Wednesday. He really showed the Cubs hitters what he was made of. Michael Kopech, I know there was a debate whether Tony La
Mm,
Russa should have let him out there for an extra inning or two. I'm not going to get on that bandwagon. Remember, folks, Tuesday's game was rain was steady light rain. I don't think that game should have been played. You know why that game was played? Because they didn't want to have to do uh, 2 games in
another
one
double header,
day at the
yeah.
same ballpark. So I understood why they did that. Was that the smartest idea? No, I got why they did that. So, but back to Michael Kopech. If it wasn't for the weather, would he stayed up there a couple, maybe an extra inning or two? Possibly, but it was the right decision for La Russa to make, and the bullpen shut it down from there afterwards. And give credit to Matt Foster coming in, getting the last 2 outs of that eighth inning in Wednesday night's game. Of course, Liam Hendricks shut it down in the ninth. Very emotional, Liam Hendricks following Wednesday's game too. Interesting, but the White Sox did what they had to do. They swept the Cubs in their own home ballpark. They have 2 more with the Northsiders at the end of the month down there in Sox Park. Hopefully, the Sox could use this as a springboard to do great things. I'm expecting them to realistically take 2 or 3 from the Red Sox. We'll get to the Red Sox and the rest of the baseball in a few minutes. But I expect the Sox to take at least 2 or 3 from the Red Sox. The Red Sox are reeling right now. I know Vince Velasquez is starting tonight, and I have my issues with that, even though he did well last Saturday against the Angels. But the White Sox offense is starting to turn around here a little bit. And let's see if they can use the last 2 games as a springboard. Right now, they're on a current 3-game winning streak. Hopefully, they can keep it going.
And that's going to be sort of the thing. This is sort of one of those series. Maybe they are starting to turn the corner, especially with the Red Sox being where they are right now. Now, as for the Cubs, I mean, you wonder, okay, let's just take it one series at a time, one step at a time, and it's going to be interesting because you're not getting a lot of contributions from some of your best players, and look, you let those chances slip away. Now, because of the weather, they play the Dodgers. Now, unfortunately, because of the weather, that tonight's game at Wrigley has been postponed. So no Cubs game today, I should say. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be part of a doubleheader tomorrow, so that's going to be another thing. And I this is going to be very interesting because the Dodgers have been playing very well this week. We'll get to them in a second. If you could just win one against the Dodgers, I think that'll be a pretty you can you'll take it, right, if you're a Cubs fan. So I
Yeah.
think both teams, the Cubs definitely have the more difficult series, I feel, but this is sort of kind of a way. Look, the Cubs will give the Dodgers a hard time as of the recent series, so it's just not like they're gonna run over and hide. I know they're gonna put up a fight, but it's just that might be a lot to ask. Just win one, I guess. Baby steps.
Yeah, for the Cubs, it's baby steps, and they had their chances in the last couple of games against the White Sox. They just couldn't pull through. As we mentioned before, their bullpen has actually been a surprise,
Hmm.
and so you can't complain about that. But they started pitching. I know Drew Smiley was supposed to start the first game, but it was a late scratch, and so there's nothing you could have do there. But Kyle Hendricks actually looked okay on Wednesday. This
Just
team
didn't have the
actually gave
yeah, just
him the
didn't have the
lead,
runs.
but
Yeah, just didn't have the run
they
support.
just
That
didn't have
was
the
sort
run
of
support. So the Cubs, we know they can score runs when they feel like it, but they're just not consistent enough to do that. I know they don't have the horses on paper, but this is a sign of a mediocre team at best, and that's what you're getting right now. Like you said, the Dodgers are one of the best teams in baseball, and you're going to have a tough test. But let's see if the Cubs, if they can just win one, they'll be a sign. Now, if you win two, that's really saying something. But realistically, I expect them just to win one.
yeah, and we'll see what happens there. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Cindy Brown, Lakeena McGee here with you. Good or bad, Sid? Let's talk about baseball throughout the week. What caught your attention, good or bad?
The young Aaron Judge fan in Toronto following Thursday's game. He received a home run from a Toronto fan. Aaron Judge hit the go-ahead home run, I believe it was on Thursday's game. Of course, that young fan met with Aaron Judge after the game. It was an awesome moment.
Mm-hmm.
People want to talk about athletes not doing the right things, or we talk about them doing negative things which gets all the headlines, unfortunately. But when professional athletes do the right things, we can't just talk about it for 2 seconds and shove it underneath the rug. And shout out to the Yankees PR staff and Aaron Judge. He met up with that young fan afterwards. I thought it was a very cool moment right there.
That was probably one of the sweetest moments,
Yeah.
probably this year in baseball. And also too, Rizzo and LeMahieu were at the Penguins Rangers game yesterday. We'll get to that
Mhm.
later on in the show. Some pretty interesting results so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs there. But for me, I think definitely there were a lot of good teams this week. I mean, the Yankees. Speaking of the Yankees, they've won 9 of their last 10. They've got one of
Mhm.
the best records in baseball, and the Mets are still doing pretty well too. They kind of had an up and down week as well.
Yeah, they took two
The
or three from Atlanta.
Yeah, the Mars are starting to come back to earth a little bit. They've lost
Mhm.
5 in a row, so that maybe that might be they got some good young talent there, but I feel like sort of you're starting to see sort of their shortcomings a little bit, their youth and whatnot, and also too Manny Machado had a really good showing. He had 2 home runs in that win, to help them sweep the Padres sweep the Marlins. So that might be it for them. The Reds, unfortunately, no, I don't know what else to say about the Reds. They're 3-22. I think they're just the third time a team has started that badly through this early in the season. They had a 12-game losing streak on the road. Okay, I'm not gonna.
Moving
Let's not.
on.
Yeah, I'll say moving on here. The Astros they're starting to come up a little bit. They've won 4 in a row. The Mariners not so much. I mean, I need y'all to stop. Come on, Mariners! You're making me look bad here. You guys have lost 4 in a row. Come on now. Phillies the same thing. You saw what happened in that game yesterday against the Mets. You were up
Ooh.
7-1 in the top of the ninth. Really? Are you freaking kidding
I'm
me?
surprised Citizens Bank's ballpark is still up this morning in Philly.
I'm surprised that no one. No, I don't want to say the words because the way the current climate. Not want to say writing. I don't know if you want to do that anymore. The Mets came back 8-7 in that game yesterday, and I needless to say that there was I have some friends who are Mets fans or Phillies fans, I should say, and they weren't very happy. So Sterling Marte had that game winning RBI, and I just yeah, that was just a that was just brutal. Go ahead, Sid.
What about the Angels who split the weekend series
Hmm.
last weekend here in Chicago against the White Sox? They take 2 or 3 from Boston, including yesterday's 8-0 win at Fenway.
Hmm.
Shohei Ohtani was amazing yesterday. I had the chance to watch some of that game. We all know that he's very good with that bat, but he's not too shabby on that mound either.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, he might be a Cy Young in his future
Yeah.
too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there on that front. Going back to that Mets comeback against the Phillies. They're like 330 games over the last 25 seasons when trailing by 6 runs or more. So they they've changed that. Also, to shout out Dusty Baker, who becomes the 12th manager and the first Black manager in MLB history to reach 2,000 wins. So
Yeah,
that's
congratulations to Mr. Baker. He's definitely a Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. Despite what you thought, what he did or didn't do here in Chicago and other places, he's one of the best managers of all time. So he deserves that record.
yep, absolutely. So very cool moment there. I know they did a nice little sort of a nice little salute to him, I think, after that game.
Hmm.
So that was pretty cool to see. You know what? The Minnesota, I know they've lost a couple in a row, but they're still really solid.
Hmm.
They're still right there at the top of the Central right now on the AL side. We talked about the Dodgers. They won three in a row. The
Yeah,
Padres have
sweeping away the Giants.
I know. Oh boy, that was I don't think anybody saw that coming. We thought that maybe
Nah.
there would be a maybe the Dodgers went 2 or 3, but they ended up sweeping. That might that might be Gabe Kepler on the phone right now. So let's go my bullpen. That was a little bit nutty, but yeah, that was an interesting series. But yeah, I think things are third. They've lost 4 in a row. I think they'll get it together, but I think they're
Hmm.
realizing that they can't come out and surprise people anymore like they did last year. They kind of came out of nowhere. No one saw the Giants coming out and basically just skyrocketing into the NL West. But I think they'll get it together. But it's just good. They just gotta get some consistency with their pitching, especially.
Yeah, speaking of another NL West team, MLB on YouTube debuted yesterday with the Colorado
Ooh,
Rockies defeating the terrible Washington Nationals 9-7. Did you get a chance to check out
I
some of
did.
that broadcast?
I did.
Yeah,
Pretty.
congrats to Sierra Santos, former Chicago
Yeah.
sports anchor. She's angering and that along with Quick Pitch on MLB Network. She did the pre and post yesterday, so great job by her. As far as on the field, Colorado, I know they stumbled a little bit, but they got back on track yesterday. Chris Bryant, I know he's not having the world's greatest start, but let's see if he can start to get going because Colorado was one of the surprising teams in the MLB in the first couple of weeks. So let's see if they can pick it back up again.
Yeah, I checked out some of that broadcast. Brendan Rodgers, I should say, hit that 3-run home run to help kind of put the game away for the Rockies. Now it's interesting though that it is going to be kind of like the thing where you put like the lesser tier games on YouTube and just do it
Hmm.
exclusively streaming it, so that way you don't have to
Remember,
worry
two
about
weeks from
having.
today, the Cubs are on YouTube
Yep,
against Arizona.
yes they are. Well,
Just a
see,
friendly
you
reminder. Sorry to cut you
proving
off.
no, it's fine because you just proved my point. Because it's probably gonna be mostly mid-tier or lower tier
Mhm.
people, lower tier teams, I should say, in on YouTube. So that's probably what you're gonna get. Hence the Cubs and the Diamondbacks in a couple of weeks on YouTube. So I think this is sort of a thing where we know YouTube's been doing the sports stuff for years now. They've done some college sports
Yeah.
um events too. So this is probably going to be the thing where it'll be a matter of time for the other leagues follow suit.
Yep, and also too, with Peacock joining in, they start on Sunday. By the way, for you White Sox fans, this Sunday's game against the Boston Red Sox will be seen on NBC and Peacock at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time live. So the Sunday's game against the Red Sox will be seen on NBC at 10:30 a.m. this Sunday morning. Of course, tonight's game will be on Apple TV Plus. So, like you mentioned, Lakeena, we'll mention another network later that's joining in exclusive streaming services for
Hmm.
a game that no one saw coming, but we'll get to that later. But as far as baseball is concerned, they're starting to do these exclusive game streaming deals where they all continue past this season. We shall see, but this is a season to try it out, and that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, then again, we'll get to all of that. I know exactly what you're talking about. It was very interesting when the news came out, but again, we'll save our opinions for that one. Special note though, too, besides the Dodgers and the Cubs are postponed tonight, the Mets and the Phillies are also postponed tonight. I'll get the Phillies to recover from that 7-1 collapse yesterday. And also too, the Rangers and the Yankees have also been postponed too due to rain. So those some of those will probably be double. All three I think are going to be double headers tomorrow. So we'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Shout out to our guy Jason Palmer from What's Up Cuz every Monday night from
Ah,
6 to 8
Jason,
p.m. on
J-Pa.
Sports Zone Chicago. He says MLB is going to mess up their fan base doing this nonsense. You're correct. You're
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
correct. We talked about it before, Lakeena, about if you're living in the state of Iowa, you cannot see 5 teams exclusively on the if you subscribe to the MLB TV package. That's the Cubs, Sox, Brewers, Twins, and the Kansas City Royals. That makes no
KC,
sense,
yeah.
but But like I said,
That's
we're not
yeah,
wasting
that's
any
the
more
whole
time
other
on
call.
that. But
Look. I told you I got a friend who lives in Iowa, and he played baseball on the minors, and he's not very happy that he doesn't get because he likes the Cubs. So and the fact that they can't, watch those, them and those other
mhm,
teams. I mean, that's a whole again, I don't I see Jay Pa's point, but that's a whole nother conversation
mhm,
for another time. Now it's gonna be very interesting to see. But Pittsburgh and Cincy, yeah, that's another game for these, starting at these weekend series.
mhm,
Kansas City and Baltimore. Baltimore, they've been okay. They haven't been great, but the Red
mhm.
Sox got the same record. So go figure there. Of course, the White Sox and Red Sox at Fenway this week. Of course, this weekend, of course, the first game is tonight on Apple TV, as Sid said. Toronto and the Guardians. Toronto's had a really good week too, and the Guardians kind of up and down, so that should be a fun series tonight. Milwaukee and Atlanta. That's another fun
Yeah,
one
yeah.
starting
First
tonight.
game since last year's playoffs, which the Braves got
Yes,
by the Brewers.
revenge. I'm sure the Brewers got revenge on their minds. Detroit and Houston at 7:10. Detroit's been again. They've been okay, not great. Oakland and Minnesota, like you said, Sid, ESPN Plus will be the first. That'll be the first game there. Washington and the Los Angeles Angels of Southern California, first game of that series. Also to Miami and San Diego. Yeah, Tampa Bay and Seattle. That should be a fun one. That's going to be the second game of the Apple TV Plus doubleheader.
hmm
And St. Louis and San Francisco. That should be a fun one. San Francisco will try to right the ship.
Yep. Also, too, you have Colorado at Arizona, and even though tonight's game is canceled, it'll be made up on Sunday. But you still have a three game series, two on Sunday, and of course the Saturday game tomorrow.
Mhm.
Texas at New York against the Yankees. So we know Anthony Rizzo has been swinging a hot stick along with Aaron
Mhm.
Judge, and is starting to pick up some starting pitching outside of Garrett Cole. Jordan Montgomery pitched his butt off the other night in one of their wins at Toronto.
The New York teams have been really solid. I mean, Matt
Yeah.
Scherzer has been really good. I know McGill's been really good too. I think
hmm
he's one of the leaders. I think they're both are like two of the leaders. I think there's like a 5 or 6 way tie in wins so far. I know Rizzo is high with Crone of Colorado, and also too I think Aaron Judge as well for a home run. So that's an interesting stat. I think ERA. I think Logan Gilbert has the lowest ERA right now for the Mariners. He's been one of their bright spots. He also is tied with the league for most wins. So yeah, so far so good. I mean, look, I think a lot this can change. We'll see, especially since we're still dealing with expanded rosters. That's going to
hmm
be sort of the key here.
Yep, and there's your schedule for this weekend series from around the world of Major League Baseball. Lakeena, we have to dig in first with the NBA playoffs following this timeout. A couple of teams, they are in trouble, trailing
Ooh.
0-2. We'll dissect that and a whole lot more, and we'll discuss the Bulls' future plans. Some people are freaking out. Some people, like yours truly, are just laughing there. You know what's up.
Me too.
Well, Lakeena, I know I created a monster, but we'll get into all that and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109 the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to the Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. If you want to follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG, you can do so by going to CK80. Once again, that's CK80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
Now, with 90 minutes left in this extravaganza we call a sports radio talk show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. We'll get the Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Let's kick off the second half of this first hour, Lakeena, by discussing NBA playoff basketball. We'll review Tuesday's action first in the Eastern Conference semifinal series between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. The best of 7 series is tied up at 1 game apiece. Game 3 is tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on ABC. But Game 2 took place in Boston on Tuesday with the Celtics coming out on top 109-86. The Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo had 28 points for Milwaukee, but it was Jaylen Brown's 30 points that pushed the home team through without Marcus Smart to an important Game 2 home victory.
Yeah, that was a big. I don't think that was a must win for Boston, but I think they really needed that win to sort of. Yeah, they drained 23s in that game, so that's the most made threes in history in the playoffs. And the Bucks, I think, only made 3, so the 3-point shot was not their friend, the Bucks. So that definitely was a big difference there, and we'll see. I mean, I feel like, look, we said this was going to go 6 or 7. The key is going to be, if the role players, and we saw that this week, especially in Game 2 for Boston. So it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how all these series. Again, we'll get to all of them, but a couple of teams are already in trouble. But I think with this one, you think about that, Game 2, and I feel like this is sort of because I was turning back and forth from both the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I guess that's a good power for us to have this time of year. In the spring, but this is sort of the Celtics kind of dominated from the jump, and like Giannis, did Giannis, he had 28 points, but again, he didn't really get any.
He didn't have much help,
yeah. So, Brooke Lopez, what happened to you? Wesley Matthews. I mean, this isn't your first rodeo in the playoffs, dude. I know you have to pick up the slack for Chris Middleton, but 4 points, that's not gonna do it, and. Also, turnovers were also a big issue too, as well. I mean, Drew Holiday, had 3 turnovers. He had 19 points, but he was only 1 for 16 from 3. So that's another thing. So there was just a whole lot of factors that the Celtics were able to take advantage of, both the defense and on the 3-point side.
And speaking of the Boston's role players, Grant Williams had 21 points and 5 rebounds off the bench. And also, too, you look at Pritchard, as we talked about on the last show, he only had 6 points, but he really brought that energy in that presence, especially on the defensive end in Game 2 for Boston. Of course, they had to pick up the slack without Marcus Smart. So I think he's going to play Game 3 with the extra days off in between. If that happens, that's going to give Boston a real edge going into face-off form tomorrow against the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, Lakeena, I wanted to ask you, with the loss in Game 2 for Milwaukee, are we now starting to see the signs that this team really misses Chris Middleton? I think so.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see it. I think you're kind of peeling the onion. Wesley Matthews is as solid as he is. He's not really a starter. So we want to see if Mike Budenholzer makes a change there. I don't know, who would you put there? Do you put Connaughton there in that starting spot? And maybe Carter, maybe put him there, either one of them. I don't know, but they're gonna have to make some changes there if they want to kind of this, because he's gonna miss this series too, Middleton. So this is someone's gonna have to pick up the slack. And the Celtics are not the Bulls. Not to insult the Bulls, but the Celtics are not the Bulls, so they're not gonna be able to get away with what they're doing here. I mean, Grayson Allen is finally struggling. I don't even think he played in a game on Tuesday. So
No, he did. He just didn't do much.
oh yeah, well that's true. Yeah, I think he only had like 5 points or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of one of those things where it is going to be the role players. More role players have to step up, and we just see who does.
All right, in that second game of that TNT doubleheader from Tuesday in the Western Conference semifinal series between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors, Ja Morant's 47 points was the difference between a Memphis win and a Golden State loss. That best-of-7 series is tied up in a game apiece after Memphis defeated the Warriors 106-101. Lakeena, this has been an exciting but an intense physical series after Draymond Green's quote-unquote flagrant foul in Game 1 on Sunday. Dylan Brooks decided to injure Gary Payton II on Tuesday in Game 2. According to the letter of the law, Dylan Brooks deserved that suspension for Game 3 coming up, I believe, tomorrow, which he'll serve that 1-game suspension. I know Steve Kerr said that it wasn't an accident; it was a dirty foul. Lakeena, will we expect to see more physical play, more drama in this series, or can we just watch pure basketball?
It's gonna get a little bit more physical, I feel like, especially I'm sure the Warriors are gonna want, Draymond Green is probably gonna be, salivating at a chance to perhaps now the Brooks isn't gonna play tomorrow, so I don't even think it really matters. But I think it is gonna get physical. We saw it was still physical even before that injury, and you feel bad for Gary Payton II because he was actually playing really well for them, the Warriors. He was definitely contributing. So we'll see if anybody picks. It just means more Jordan Poole, I guess. So I'm sure he wouldn't mind that. But yeah, I think the Warriors will probably be able to take control of this series, and I think this will probably wake up a sleeping giant. I feel like.
I couldn't agree with you more, Lincoln. The Warriors are close to unbeatable at home at the Chase Center. Not quite, but they're a very good whole team. They use their energy from the fans to get themselves hyped up, ready to go. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry didn't shoot the ball well down the stretch in Game 2. I expect that to turn around in Game 3. Like I said, playing in front of their home fans. What are you going to get out of Andrew Wiggins? I know he's struggled in Game 2. And like you said, Jordan Poole, how much does he have left? He's been their best player overall in these playoffs so far. But as the other guys that got to pick it up, like I said, Wiggins. I know Klay Thompson, as I mentioned before, had 12 points, but I expect that to turn around on Saturday. Otto Porter Jr., he only gave you 4 points in 21 minutes. That's not going to get it done. So as other guys off their Warriors bench that Steve Kerr is going to have to trust to step up.
Yeah, and I think we'll see if they can do just that. I think that's also to the experience. I think that's going to be sort of the key, and that's going to be kind of like the thing that I think this will help the Warriors take control. Now, as for the Grizzlies, Ja Morant, 47 points, I should say. He's the third player in NBA history to do that in the playoffs before turning 23, joining LeBron and Kobe. But he needs more help, and you're not getting a lot of contributions from your other guys. I know Brooks is going to be out. Tillman, you're gonna have to step up now, and Jared Jackson Jr. I mean, look, this was a fun team, but you're in the playoffs now. You guys said that you wanted people to respect you guys. Well, you're gonna need to do it, and look, it's gonna be tough to do playing the Warriors home courts. But this is sort of your chance to try and prove it. Now, you did do it a little bit there in that play-in a couple of years ago. So that's going to be sort of the thing where can you do that? But again, they weren't at full strength at the time, the Warriors I'm talking about. So it could get a little bit tricky.
Yeah, and I think Memphis won there early in the season, I believe, so we had to check up on that. But the Memphis can do it, but like I said, this is a different Warriors team now. They're outside of Gary Payton II. They're majority healthy. I know Steph Curry's starting to get more minutes now, recovering from that foot injury from the last part of the season. So the Warriors have confidence now, even though it was a setback in Game 2. They have confidence now because they are the better team in this series, and the next 2 games are at home. So if Memphis can steal a game at the Chase Center, this series is really going to flip. But call me crazy, but I expect the Warriors to win both their home games this weekend.
Yeah, they did win their first game, but remember, Klay didn't play, so that's the wild card. So we'll see now that the Warriors are kind of in full strength now. They lost that last meeting at Golden State, so they split that series there. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes, because I feel like you're getting the Warriors in playoff mode. So that's good. I think the experience is going to be the key that kind of takes the Warriors over the edge. But we'll see. It should be an interesting series.
And and also too, Draymond Green can give the home fans the thumbs up instead of the turkey bird like he did the other night.
Yeah, the thumbs up.
Maybe he'll yell about that on his next episode on the Colin Cowherd's podcast. I'm just saying.
Yeah. He's got some content there for the for the podcast. He definitely has some content there. Now, the Philly-Miami series this is the one that our buddy Sparrow Dees has been doing for TNT. Now, unfortunately, it's been Miami, especially in Game 2 on Wednesday, 119-103. A solid, team win for Miami. Tyler Hero, newly crowned Sixth Man of the Year. Tyler Hero had 18 points off the bench. Also, Victor Oladipo had 19 points. So
it was nice to see him back healthy again. I know he's been MIA the last few years due to injuries, but it's nice to see him playing basketball again.
Well, here's the thing. He actually scored just as many points as the Sixers bench did combined. So that's again, that's not good if you're if that's good if you're a Heat fan, getting some contribution from the bench, but it's not good if you're a Sixers fan. Now, of course, Bam led the way with 23, and of course, Jimmy Butler had 22. Kyle Lowry, of course, still hurt with that hamstring. They've picked up the slack. It looks like MB will try to play his clear concussion protocols. Do you think they have a shot to perhaps try to cut into the series, Sid?
Yeah, tomorrow is a must win for Philadelphia. And I know I'm sure MB will probably wear a LeBron James / Bill and Beer type mask to protect that face. But with that being said, this is a must win for Philadelphia tomorrow. If they don't get it, I'm not going to say it's a sweep, but at worst they'll be eliminated in the generally fashion in 5 games. So Game 3 is a must win tomorrow. For me, what's the game plan for Philadelphia besides using Embiid? James Harden, looking at the statistics from the game on Wednesday, yes, he scored 20 points, but is a beleaguered 20 points. He really didn't have an impact. He turned the ball over. He passed up on some shots, trying to force some things, and especially during the playoffs, that just is not going to fly. And Tobias Harris, I told you, he's the key to me in this series. He actually stepped up with a 21-point game, including 9 of 17 shooting, 2 of 6 from downtown. He wasn't a problem. Tyrese Maxey scored over 30. He wasn't the problem. It's just like you said, the James Harden, along with that bench from Philadelphia, you really didn't get much at all. You just didn't.
No, none at all. And here's a couple of stats here. The Heat are 16-0 all time when leading the best of 7 series. When leading 2-0, that's the most wins without a loss all time. But on the flip side, if you're a Sixers fan, cover your ears. They're 0-13 all time when trailing a best of 7 2-0. So that's that's not. Sorry, I told all Sixers fans to cover their ears. So we'll see here now on the other side with the Western Conference of series, the Mavs and the Suns. The Suns had to hold on against the Mavs in Game 2. They played better than the Mavs did, but again, it was just the experience and just the contributions from all the players on the Suns squad. CP3 had another solid showing. He became the first player with 20 points on 90% shooting. He was shooting lights out in that game. The last 25 possessions, both have come in the postseason. Just the amazing accomplishment of what they've done. And 64.5% the Suns, I should say. From the field in Game 2, that's the highest in franchise history. So there's 84.2% in the fourth quarter. So they were sort of kind of able to hang on. They made some big shots late. So what do you think about this series?
Phoenix has really dominated so far. I know Dallas came close in Game 1. Game 2, they were right there until the fourth quarter. As you mentioned, you read out those beautiful statistics if you're a Suns fan. But Devin Booker looks like head coach Monty Williams is starting to trust him with more minutes. He had 36 minutes and scored 30 points, including 5 of 8 from downtown. Devin Booker looks like he's starting to play with that injury. He's healthy enough, and so he's starting to get on the full goal right now. JaVale McGee had a big impact off the bench in game 2 with 6 points and 2 rebounds and also he had a couple of blocks in there. So as we said before, Lakeena, too bad he's not on the Bulls right now because he'll solve all the defensive problems for the interior that the Bulls team needs. We'll get to the Bulls in a few minutes, but JaVale McGee, a player that the Suns didn't have a year ago, he's starting to make his presence felt this year for the Phoenix Suns. So a shout out to him. Also, too, Jamison Crowder, he's been in the playoffs for the last few years with Boston and LeBron James's Cavaliers in those teams. He stepped up. He had 15 points, including 3 of foul shooting from downtown. That's something you like to see there. A player that struggled with 9 points there is DeAndre Ayton. I told you he's going to be the key for me in this series. I know he had a bad game, too, because CP3 and Devin Booker got it going, especially late. But I expect DeAndre Ayton to pick it up scoring-wise in games 3 and 4.
Yeah, they really didn't need him. The Suns did, so they were, shoot, like I said, what Booker was doing and CP3 was doing and Crowder. So definitely, in that front. Now, it was just a good team win overall by the Suns. Now, can the Mavs, cut into the lead and perhaps maybe steal one? Well, they wouldn't steal it because they're at home, but get one of these next 2 games at home. Yeah, they can. But again, they need contributions from all sides. Jalen Brunson, 9 points. He need to step up. Luka can only do so much by himself, guys. And 50 Smith only had a field goal. He struggled from the field, didn't really take a lot of shots. So if you're a Jason Kidd, I think you need to get your guys kind of together and say, hey, look, if you don't want to get swept off the floor, you need to kind of step up and help Luka out.
We all know in the playoffs it's all about matchups and adjustments. And, of course, Jason Kidd, he's going to adjust to how they defend Devin Booker, especially after what he did in the fourth quarter in game 2 the other night. Dallas is a very good defensive team. They've been that way ever since the All-Star break, so give Jason Kidd and the players credit for that. But Reggie Bullock, I told you he was going to be one of my players to focus on this series. He actually brought it next to Luka Doncic with 16 points. But after that, Lakeena, you mentioned Spencer did really struggle from the field shooting. Also, Jalen Brunson, 3 of 12 for 9 points. That's not going to get it done either. It's going to have to take defensive adjustments, and they just have to shoot the ball better. But they got to get some balanced scoring to help Luka out. Luka, we all know that he's still injured with that calf muscle. So other players got to step up. They're going to have to share the ball and make some defensive adjustments to protect home court this weekend.
And that's going to be the key because I feel like if the Mavs don't win game 3, it's at least maybe give themselves a little bit of a shot. It's good. It'll probably be like curtains for them. So we'll see what happens there. Going through the schedule for tomorrow, going into the weekend, tonight. Of course, tonight and also tomorrow as well. Because again, there were no games yesterday, so that was a little bit weird. No games on Thursday, but look, more NHL, a little bit of time to shine. So we'll get to that in a second. But this whole thing, with tonight's games, of course, Miami and Philly. ESPN will have these games. Do you think that Philly, especially with Embiid, getting clear like he is coming back, do you think they have a shot to perhaps maybe try to cut into the series?
I think so. They're at home. Like I said, Embiid is back, but James Harden's going to have to play better. And Tobias Harris continue to carry that momentum that you had in game 2, scoring 21 points. Tyrese Maxey, I don't need him to score 30, but if he can get around the upper teens, low 20 to mid 20s, that's good for me. But this is all about James Harden tonight. I know everybody's going to give the attention to Embiid, and rightfully so, because he's a beast down the middle. But it's all about James Harden tonight. Stop being lackadaisical. Start being aggressive. Be the James Harden you always been throughout your career. And so Philadelphia can get off to a hot start, which I expect them to do in front of their home crowd tonight. They'll win game 3 because if they don't, they'll definitely hear from the fans, and I don't think they can recover. This goes way beyond Ben Simmons and all the other stuff they want to blame on for their past failures in the playoffs. So it's all about Philadelphia looking themselves in the mirror and say, hey, even though Miami is good, we're better than them, so we had to be the aggressors tonight.
Interesting to see if they could do that. We need to see playoff Harden. We haven't seen him yet, so hopefully we'll
Well,
see
we've
that
seen him,
soon.
but we haven't seen the other side yet. We've seen lazy playoff Harden, but we haven't seen the greatness out of James Harden yet.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting if we see that tonight. The Suns and the Mavs, of course, game 3, the second half, that ESPN doubleheader. I think for me, if you're the Mavs, I think this is sort of the time you got them at home. This is game 3. You don't want to be down 3-0 going into Sunday. I hope they can pull it off, but I think the Suns are on a mission, especially now that that series against the Pelicans is over with. I feel like I really feel like they think they can get back to the finals. I'm kind of right there. I'm gonna say the Suns, but I think again, if Luka can be Luka, if he gets some, the role players to step up, like Brunson, like Bullock, and Finney Smith, I think they have a shot, but I just don't see it. They're gonna have to prove it to me.
I think Dallas will win game 3 tonight. Is going to be tough because, like I said, Phoenix is so focused and they're on a roll right now. But as I said before a few minutes ago, for Dallas, it's all about sharing the ball and making defensive adjustments. How are you going to defend Devin Booker? And can you force Phoenix to take bad shots? If you could do that, you'll come out with a victory tonight. So I'm going without Dallas. It's going to be a tough one, but I'm taking Dallas to win. They have to get this one or else it's over.
We'll see if both the Sixers and the Mavs can kind of seize leads. Now, pivotal game 3s here. You got Boston and Milwaukee. Of course, this is the first game of that ABC doubleheader at 2:30 Central Time. I'm wondering though, okay, so this is sort of a reset here. This is now a best of 5. So let's see if which role players can step up. Can Boston, keep shooting? They're not going to probably have a 20. They're not going to be shooting 23s, or not going to make 23s, I should say. Milwaukee, I mean, look, they get it their home court, so I think they'll probably be able to make more than 3 threes. But it's gonna be interesting to see who can make the big shots.
Yeah, for Boston, let's see if Marcus Smart does play in game 3 or not. I know it's a game time decision on him. I know you missed the last game, but for Boston, it's all about defending Giannis. Not one man can stop Giannis, but if you could do what you did from game 2 and limiting Milwaukee to jump shots and missing them, you'll be okay. You're a very good rebounding team, and they can definitely get out and run. And so Jason Tatum continue to be aggressive. Also, to Jaylen Brown, one of the best athletes in the NBA. He had a big game too. Let's see if he can carry it over to game 3. I still believe that Boston can get a game in Milwaukee, and I expect it for that to happen this weekend. Will it happen tomorrow? I'm not sure, but it'll happen this weekend. So when we come back here on Monday, I'm sure we're talking around the 2-2 series tie between these two teams.
Be interested to see what happens there. Of course, at 7:30, the nightcapper of tomorrow's ABC doubleheader. You got Memphis and Golden State. We already talked about this. I feel like Golden State. I think now that I think they know that Curry and Clay both had shots to both miss some big shots. So I think that now they're going to be in their home court. I think this is sort of when the series is going to be probably theirs.
For Memphis, Jared Jackson, Kyle Anderson. For the big guys for Memphis, this is for their time to step up. Now with Dylan Brooks being suspended for tomorrow night's game, what are those guys are going to do? Because right now, Draymond Green is the heart and soul for the Golden State Warriors. He brings the defensive presence from the forward position. Also to John Morant, he's not going to score 47 again. I guarantee that. He's a very good player, but it's all about Desmond Bane and some of the other role players from Memphis as well. They're going to have to step up and steal a game from the Chase Center. So we mentioned they won there earlier this season, but that was without Klay Thompson, with that being said. But this is going to be a true tough task for Memphis. Yeah, Minnesota was one thing, but you go into a bigger hostile environment at the Chase Center with all those Warriors fans screaming and yelling. So, like you said, we said before, the Warriors are coming together. I do not expect Steph or Clay to shoot that terrible again down the stretch in the playoff game. So I think the Warriors will win this one tomorrow, but if Memphis doesn't get a split here, they're in trouble.
Yes, they are. I agree, and I feel like I think if Steph and Clay are hitting those 3 big threes, and Poole steps up and does what he's been doing all these playoffs, I think this could be lights out for this series. Now, of course, Sunday's games, you got the Suns and the Mavs in Game 4, also Heat and Sixers in Game 4. We'll see if the Heat and or Suns will be play the Clemson series and sweeping, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be like either somebody's going to extend the series, whether it's in this game or whether it's nice games, but we'll see what happens there. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sydney Brown on Lakeena McGee. Now we're going to switch gears and talk some Bulls and what they're going to do. All types of weird Bulls rumors and all types of, weird scenarios and everything else, from Rudy Gobert to perhaps Anthony Davis, through trades. And maybe, of course, Deontay Murray.
I saw in the Athletic, at least the headline, like, I'll be fair, I saw the headline. It was like, what are the Bulls going to do? They had a picture of Trae Young. Like, really? Like I said, I saw the headline. I didn't read the story, to be fair. But I was like, really? This doesn't make sense, but I digress. Go on.
Well, yeah, and also I guess Deontay Murray, I guess there was a photo of Zach LaVine, like a Photoshop photo with him in a Spurs uniform. That caused, he deleted that quickly. Of course, that caused a little bit of a stir on Bulls Twitter. So I at this point, I know some people are wondering, could Zach perhaps leave and take less money and go elsewhere? Some people said maybe the Lakers. I mean, look, he is from Los Angeles, so yeah, he played at UCLA. So for a minute, so I'm wondering. I don't know, but there's just so many crazy rumors and such. Like my head's spinning right now.
I said this before, and I'll say it again. Is Zach LaVine a max player? No, but I think the Bulls will give him a max deal just to protect their image and to protect the core of this team. Now, is Zach LaVine the alpha guy that many people thought and think that he should be? No, and that's okay. We said this earlier in the year when DeMar DeRozan was hitting those game-winning shots, and when DeMar DeRozan said, I'll take the pressure off of Zach to be the guy in the last few minutes of a game. And we said it then, and we'll say it now. That's okay. You notice that Zach's numbers were still the same from last year when he was the guy, because the Bulls didn't have anybody. So Zach LaVine, for his best chance to win, if he wants to stay in Chicago, is here. I know, like you say, he could take less money, but elsewhere. But I'm for the players getting as most money as they can. So I'm not going to shy. If I'm not going to shame any players to doing that, especially in professional sports, get as much money as you can. Like I said, is Zach LaVine a max player? No, but I think the Bulls will have to do it, and I think it's going to help them down the road, especially for potential free agents to come here. I know they're up against the cap, but this move will go a mighty long way to improve their image as far as free agency is concerned, bringing future free agents to Chicago. So this is bigger than just Zach LaVine for right now.
Again, and I think, I know we're going up against it, but I feel like here with Zach, I mean, look, we don't know what Zach's mindset is. Look, I'm sure he's going to test the market as he should.
As well as he should. Mm-hmm.
As he should, because look, you got a gold medal. You made the All-Star team. Your team made the playoffs. You made the playoffs for the first time ever personally. Of course, you got to look around and test the market and see if, okay, you can make less money elsewhere, but also too, I'm sure he's going to want to win. So if you want to go to the Lakers, okay, cool. But again, you don't know what the makeup of the roster is going to be next year. I know some other, San Antonio, but Pop, I'm sure he's still down there. I know there are some rumors about maybe Jay Wright, but again, is he going to fit the system? Whoever's going to be there. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked still, and I kind of feel like Bulls fans should just take a step back and just let, as our buddy Big Dave Watson from CHGO's Bulls say, let AK and Eversley cook. Let them cook.
Yep. And like I said, this is a big summer for the Bulls management. And like I said, we've been throwing flowers at them, and rightfully so. But this is a crucial time for this organization. You've taken a step by making the playoffs. You see where you need to be, where you are, and where you need to be. So I trust that this management team is going to make the right moves. And like you said, Lakeena, they have the 18th pick in this year's NBA draft. We'll see what happens there. So this is an important summer for the men in red. We'll see what happens going forward. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to the Friday edition of Second City Sports, live in the Living Color of Sports Zone Chicago. We have the Stanley Cup playoffs to review. Also, the NFL International Series dates are set. Plus, we have some sports media news to pass along and a whole lot more. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109 the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live in the living color on the Friday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidK80. Once again, it's SidK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keita McGee on the Twitter and at Keita_McGee on the IG.
We have less than an hour of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's kick off hour number 2 of the Friday edition of Second City Sports by discussing the NFL, the National Football League. As we always say, Lakeena, the NFL is a 12-month sport. And this week, it has not disappointed us as the international series games are as set as it goes. The first ever NFL regular season game in Germany is now set. The Seattle Seahawks will face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Munich, Germany at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, November 13th. The other dates for the international series has been set as well. The Minnesota Vikings will play the New Orleans Saints on October 2nd. In London, you watch that game on NFL Network. That's at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 8:30 Chicago time. The other game is the New York Giants versus the Green Bay Packers. Yes, with Aaron Rodgers, folks. And that game will take place on October 9th, Sunday, at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on NFL Network. That's also from London. And the Russell Wilson's Denver Broncos will play the Jacksonville Jaguars in the Jaguars annual overseas home game. That's on Sunday, October 30th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That game will take place in London, but that game will air exclusively on ESPN Plus. That's right.
Plus. Yep. Yep.
Lakeena, announce. Oh, and one more game. Sunday, November 21st. Monday, November 21st.
That's Monday, yeah.
8:15 Eastern. That's 7 o'clock Chicago time. San Francisco will play the Arizona Cardinals in Mexico City. Now, you have some words for your folks at ESPN Plus regarding that Denver-Jacksonville game. Go.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where you wonder, like, what was the mindset there? I guess this is, in the contract. It's going to be at 9:30, and I guess the way the schedule sets up, remember, the schedule release for the NFL will be next Thursday, so we'll get you guys posted on that. It's going to be interesting, and we'll see where the Broncos are by then. If you're a Broncos fan and your Broncos kind of right there in the AFC West, do you really want to try to get ESPN Plus unless you got like the triple pack with Disney Plus and Hulu? But I mean, it's going to be interesting where and Jacksonville too, with all the moves they made. We'll see where they are by then. But it's interesting that it's going to be on ESPN Plus, but that's a whole nother thing. Now the Giants and the Packers, that game will be on NFL Network on October 9th, also from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And and so will the first game, October 2nd and Monday, will be the Vikings and the Saints. We'll see where those teams are by then in October. That should be an interesting and a fun game. So, and the Mexico game, we'll see. That's a Monday nighter. That's the Monday night. That's the Monday before Thanksgiving. So that's going to be a interesting game there too in Mexico City. We'll see where both teams are. There should be a big clash there in the NFC West. So we'll see what happens in that game. So so I think this is sort of the NFL, especially with COVID calming down a little bit. You got your first ever game, because if you guys remember, in Germany they had NFL Europe, of course. They had like three teams there in Germany. So, and that game, I think you said the Bucks.
I miss NFL Europe.
Yeah, I know, that was so much fun. Yes, some pretty good players coming from there. But it's going to be interesting. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be a yearly thing where you're going to have teams, placing each other. I think Ryan Fire. I think that was probably one of their best teams in NFL Europe. But unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of support. So I wonder if they try to do one now, would there be some support? Of course, you got television won't be an issue, and streaming either. Now, will you get I think the problem was that they couldn't get the Rays were very good, and I guess they couldn't get guys to play. I don't think that's going to be a problem. But they'll be playing in the Bayern Munich, so. The Allianz Arena, which where they play, so the Bayern, I mean, so that should be a fun one there, the Seahawks and the Bucks. But I mean, look, I think they're going back international. NFL is, so I think they're seizing this opportunity.
Here's the question I want to ask you, Lakeena, and I want to ask our audience at Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook and Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your answers in the comment section, and we'll get them up on the screen for you. I want to ask you, Lakeena, with the NFL promoting its game like it's a worldwide game over the last decade and a half, do you think it's only a matter of time before we see an NFL team in Europe? Because you're going to have to get the scheduling sorted out. And I know people have been talking about it for years. I know me, Ken, and Dee talked about it during our days with the Dee and Davis show. And it sounds like a good idea, but I don't know how you're going to get the scheduling, because you're going to have an American team traveling to London or Germany, whatever, every week, if not every other week. And you have to work in some bye weeks as well. That's going to be tough. It depends on how many teams that are based over there. Because I know people have a rumor that Jacksonville maybe be one of those teams moved over there in the future. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it looks like the NFL, at least on the surface, wants a team or two overseas full time.
And I think that's going to be the thing here, I feel like, because will there be, how are you going to do that with the travel? Are you going to have the West Coast teams, especially if you're trying to have a West Coast team go all the way to Europe? How are you going to do that? Are you going to keep them out east for like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and then maybe have them go to, or you're playing Europe first and maybe have them stay out east for maybe 2 or 3 weeks? Yeah, that's a lot, and that's going to be the thing where I'm sure it will be figured out at some point. But I'm wondering, like, what's the kind of the end game here? Because I'm sure we're going to get more games in Europe next year, probably maybe 6 or 7. 2.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised.
Especially with the Olympics coming up. I'm sure they're going to want to perhaps maybe get a game in Paris, perhaps. Maybe in Rome. So, again, there's still a lot of possibilities here as well. And also, too, Scotland, maybe. So, I think that whole front of, I think there's so many possibilities for the NFL. And like I said, travel is going to really be the problem, going to be the issue, especially if the rumors are true. And look, there have been some rumors about it for some time. Will the NFL do put perhaps Jacksonville or somebody else as part of the new team? But again, we'll have to wait and see.
And will you start all of those games at 8:30 a.m. Chicago time on a Sunday, or would you start them at noon? Because remember, it's a 6-hour time difference.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So because
So
at 8:30 a.m. our time, Chicago time, that's 2:30 p.m. local time over there. Of course, if you start the games at noon our time, that's
mm-hmm.
6 p.m. nighttime
That's
over
16.
there,
Yep.
local time. So the time difference is an issue as well. Remember that story, Lakeena, that when the Raiders played the Bears a few years ago?
Mm-hmm.
In 2019. Of course, John Gruden's when he was coach there at the time, they traveled. I think they stopped home after the game at Indianapolis. They stopped home for a quick minute, then they traveled out there to London. They stayed there for the entire week. Of course, Matt Nagy's Bears traveled out there later on in that week. So, like I said, traveling is going to be an issue. Will you stay out there the whole week? Will you play back-to-back games if you have two teams or more in London? Will they stay there back-to-back weeks? Will they allow to fly back home quickly, then fly back out? It's just a lot of travel logistics there.
And that's going to be the thing where, like you said, I mean, like especially for the West Coast teams,
Yeah.
that's going to be the thing where if you're going to put one of the West Coast teams out there, have them play like Seattle and San Francisco and Arizona, but again, are you going to keep them out east? You're going to have them maybe play in Europe first, just keep, like I said, keep them out east for a couple of weeks, so get the time difference, and then perhaps may have a bye week so they can kind of get their body clocks back in order. That's another thing they got to figure out. So just so many things to kind of figure out here, and it's just sort of one of those things where it's going to be very interesting to see. Now, speaking of travel, now of course, like I said, the schedule won't come out till next Thursday. But they've already said which team is going to have the fewest miles they have to travel. Do you have a guess?
Ooh, fewest miles. I'm going out the box here. Let me say the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ding, ding,
I'm not
ding,
on the
ding.
Google. I'm not cheating.
Ding, 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 ding. You got it right. They will travel the fewest miles at just a little over 6,400, and they do not have to go outside the Eastern time zone all season.
Woohoo!
So I guess Mike Tomlin, I don't know if he made a deal with somebody, but yeah, they do not have to travel. They only have to go play in the East Coast. So they will not have to travel to the Central Time Zone. They won't have to even travel out west. So they're all good. And the team, okay, incidentally though, okay, flip side, team with the most miles they'll have to travel this year.
Let me go with the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, you cheated, didn't you? You saw.
No, I did not. I swear I did not. I'm not on
oh,
Google. I'm not
okay.
on the Google.
Okay, well, you are right also too. Seattle, 29,000 miles and 34 time zones, including that, that trip in Europe that they'll have to play. So yeah, they're gonna be traveling a lot, Pete Carroll and his guys. So after that,
Perhaps for
Denver,
Baker Mayfield in the future, we'll see.
yeah, Denver.
Did you see that poster, Geno Smith?
Yes, I
You think
did.
fans will crawl to London to see that?
I'm sure. Right. Then it's Denver, Jacksonville, Miami, and New Orleans. Those are your top tier among the most mild. And also Pittsburgh, then Detroit, Baltimore. They've been coming right there at the bottom the last couple of years too. Baltimore they haven't ever had to travel too much. The Browns and also to the Bears. They're kind of that bottom five when it comes to they'll have the least miles have to travel this year. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, so the Bears, I know traveling wise, I know they play the AFC East this year, so they'll have to go to, I believe they go to New England, and I believe they go to the Jets.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's the farthest they'll have to go as far as the East Coast is concerned. So, like I said, well, I don't have the rest of their opponents' schedule in front of me. I know they'll be released next week, but we'll talk about it. So, but yeah, the Bears, well, let's say they got a whole lot more work to do than just worry about travel. But yeah, the NFL is trying to get worldwide now, and we'll see if these international games work. Like you said, Lakeena, I won't be surprised if you get about 5, 6, 7 down the road. Especially if you expand the schedule, which I expected to. Eventually, we'll get to a 20-game schedule.
That could be Roger Goodell on the phone right now, but I'm talking about that. Like, yeah, how you know my plans, Sid? But yeah, like you might be right about that.
Oops.
No, that's gonna be. But yeah, so more NFL news to talk about. DeAndre Hopkins, who did not play the last half of last year due to the hamstring injury, now it looks like he's gonna be suspended for the first 6 weeks, I guess, for PEDs. That's a little weird,
Call
but
me crazy, Lakeena, but in a sport like football, we'll get a quick fake outrage for like 2 minutes, but at the end of the day, when the dust settles, no one cares. But when it comes to baseball and track and field, we get all up in arms. Why?
that's a good question. Yeah, that's probably Roger Goodell. That might be DeAndre Hopkins calling again. But yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah. So he insists that there was no truth to it. I guess a cream that he was taking, I guess, for his treatment for his hamstring. I'm they're wondering that apparently contained, I guess, PEDs, and I guess that's why he got suspended. I don't know the whole details, the whole story. They were saying that they might that he might that they might appeal. We'll see if that's the case, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Cardinals do because I know they got Hollywood Brown. And I know they've drafted a couple of wide receivers. But you need DeAndre Hopkins back. So the fact that they may not have him for the first 6 weeks, that's something that the Cliff Kingsbury and the guys are gonna have to think about.
And also, too, Kyler Murray's going to earn his contract extension, so we'll see what he could do. And we'll see how the NFL carries out these with the schedule being released next week. Who are their first 6 opponents? Because there's going to be a couple of division teams already off the bat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
Again, too, probably Rams and or 49ers probably both will be in that 6-week window.
Yeah, and that's
I guarantee you that.
Key here. Oh yeah, I think so too. So that might be a problem for the Cardinals, but again, we'll see how the schedule maps out. And also too, who's going to be the first? What's going to be the first Monday night game? That's going to be a key with Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. And also the Sunday night game, which of course, with a new tandem too, with Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth, now Melissa Stark on the sidelines. And again, another thing, Kevin Burkhardt, the new #1 NFL guy at Fox, who's going to be his partner with all of the rumors going around. So it's going to be very interesting.
I thought it was Greg Olson.
No, they haven't. Apparently, no, that has not been official yet. So, and I guess that now there are rumors that maybe Drew Brees might be, there are all types of rumors going around. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's yeah. So but yeah, a lot of questions hopefully will be answered next week.
It's going to be interesting to see who's going to be the #2 team at Fox.
Yeah.
Will it be Kenny Albert?
Mm-hmm.
Will it be Adam Amin?
Well, yeah. That's another that they're gonna have to figure out as well. So I'm just wondering, like, what's gonna be the a lot of questions will be answered to within the next these next week when the schedule comes out. So still a lot to be decided here. Yeah, and the NFL year round, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we do what we do. You're listening to the Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, let's transition over to the NHL. Let's do that playoff hockey, will you? Now I wish we had a soundboard. We'll get one soon. We can play that old ESPN hockey theme song. Lakeena, the playoffs for the NHL has been on fire. Let's go through these series first. We'll start with last night's results. The series is tied up at 1-1 in the Eastern Conference. The New York Rangers get by the Pittsburgh Penguins by the score of 5-2. Pittsburgh had a little goalie controversy in Game 1.
Yes,
they won that classic triple overtime thriller at MSG, but the Rangers bounced back with a big win last night.
And that was I was alluded to earlier. Aaron Judge, Jason LeMahieu, and of course Anthony Rizzo were a part of that game too. Igor Shesterkin has made 118 saves so far in these playoffs. The first 2 games. That's actually tied for the second most combined saves by a single goaltender in consecutive playoff games in NHL history. I don't know. I forgot to see who's #1, but I'm about to look that up. But that's a crazy stat. Yeah, that was a classic game. If you're the Rangers, you're probably kicking yourself that you should be up 2-0 right now.
Yeah.
But look, you got the game. You did what you're supposed to do. Panarin had a couple of goals for the Rangers, so hopefully this will kind of get it going for them. And I know they had a goal in the first game that was disallowed. I know Rangers fans are still upset about that. But even still, I mean, look, I think this is probably going to be a split anyway in the first 2 games. So if you're either one of your teams, you're probably feeling pretty good about this series. Also, Sidney Crosby became the 19th player in NHL history to reach 70 playoff goals. Only Alex Ovechkin is the other one. So another more history made for Mr. Crosby.
In the other Eastern Conference first round series, after stealing game one in South Beach, well, not South Beach entirely, but down there in Florida, the Washington Capitals, they dropped game two to the Florida Panthers by the score of 5-1. That best of seven series is tied up in the game of peace. Lakeena, I said this will go seven. I believe I picked the Florida Panthers to win, but Washington got off to a great start in game one. Game two, the Panthers dominated.
Yeah, I think sort of this like I said, this is probably gonna be the one of those seven that'll go seven. Just a really great display by the Panthers. I know they needed that. I know that Panthers fans were not very happy after the Caps stole that game, but like I said, it'll be interesting which role players step up because I think this is gonna be like a one of those sort of series where it's really we know who the stars are and such. We know about Ovi, we know about Backstrom. We know about Giroux, who was traded there to the Panthers midway through the season. It's gonna be interesting who also to the goalies. I mean that's gonna be another thing too, and I feel like that's gonna be kind of the key.
Yeah, Washington needs to steal a win or two with their goalie.
Yeah,
they need to.
Yeah. Because he's had his struggles lately too. We saw that he's been consistent. So we saw that last night, giving up 5 goals. So that's not good if you're a Capitals fan. The next series from last night, and these were all on TNT and TBS. So this was a really cool moment for them. We'll get to the coverage there in a second. Rick Tocchet brought the Stanley Cup.
Mr. Gambling Man.
That's
that's a whole nother show. But
that's a whole nother situation there. Colorado took a 2-0 lead, beating Nashville 2-1. What you think about this series?
Colorado showing their dominance. I know Nashville played much better last night. As I said, Colorado should win this series in 5 games. I'm still going to stick to that. Colorado did what they had to do, winning their 2 home games. Game 1, they exploded for seven goals. I know Nashville had a goalie change for last night. I guess it worked, but in overtime, it blew up in your face.
Yeah. I mean, that was a tough goal to give up on. I mean, they made the switch. The Preds made the switch, but unfortunately, it didn't. As Kale Makar, had that overtime goal. About a little over 8.5 minutes in the first overtime, and that propelled the Avalanche. And now I think the Avalanche. I feel like they're on a mission. I feel like because. I think, look, Kumper's been doing really well. He had 25 saves. Like I said, Ingram, had 49 for the Press. He doesn't have any offense to kind of help him out. So
that's been Nashville's problem all year: inconsistency with the goal scoring.
Yeah, so that they're gonna have to step that up if they want to perhaps get that chance there. So I'm looking forward to this series. I mean, this could be over quick. The Avs could take control of the series pretty fast.
Yep. And in the last game from last night in the Western Conference first round, evening up that series at a game apiece, the Dallas Stars steal a game in Calgary with a 2-0 shutout win. I still like Calgary. Lakeena said Dallas is their young team, but they're mystifying to me. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. They showed up last night.
Yeah, they did. And I think Dallas, I don't think people realize that maybe this will be I think people thought that this would be the Flames would blow them out. That has not been the case.
Well, it's a series now.
Olinger had 29 saves. He had a couple of the Flames had their chance to perhaps maybe try to get this game open, and look, Olinger was sort of standing on his head. So that definitely was a big thing for them. Rafi had a goal also too. Pavelski also had a goal as well. So that propelled the Stars. And like you said, I mean, they've been sort of one of those strange teams all year. You thought that they've shown some flashes, but they're like. You're like, wait, but look, we got the good. If you're Calgary, you should be awake now.
Yep. I was looking at the schedule for tonight's games. They'll be seen on TBS and TNT. Let's start at 6:00 in the Eastern Conference first round series. This has been a physical, using air quotes for those listening back on our playback ahead, war on Anchor. The Carolina Hurricanes, they lead the Boston Bruins 2-0 in the series. Lakeena has been nasty hits on both sides. I hate to say that. I expect it to continue. I know Boston beat Carolina a couple years ago in the playoffs. It looks like the tide has turned. Can the Bruins win 2 games at home at the TD Bank North Garden? I think they can, but it's really going to be difficult because their guys are just beat up.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that this will probably be a sweep. We might have our first sweep of the Stanley Cup playoffs here because Carolina, I think that they've been sort of dominating on offense. It's also their goalies have been really solid too. So I'm wondering, look, the Boston, you gotta think they're like you said, they're older, they're beaten up. I know Marchand, but you can tell that the years of wear and tear on him.
Yeah.
So I think Carolina, yeah, Aho has been really good for them too. So far this playoff. So I'm wondering that he might take the team on his back. Perhaps that might. Yeah, I think this might be like I said, we might get our first sweep of the playoffs.
At 6:30 p.m. on TBS tonight, we have Game 3 of the Eastern Conference first round between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Game 3 will take place down there in Tampa. I told you guys Tampa was going to lose in the first round. Toronto dominated Game 1, but Tampa Bay came back in Game 2. This game is pivotal tonight. Like I said, the best of 7 series is tied up at a game apiece. Tampa has home ice now. All you have to do if you're Toronto, get one. Get one.
Well, Tampa's 16-0 in the postseason following a loss with a plus 31 goal differential. So if you're a Lightning fan, that's actually pretty good. But look, I think Toronto, if any team is capable of perhaps making those streaks I just mentioned, it is Toronto. So we'll see if they can do that. Austin Matthews and the rest of the Maple Leafs, hopefully they can step up. Because like I said, this is the Lightning's first rodeo. So we'll see what happens there. The Wild and the Blues, they're tied at 1 as well. That's going to be the second game on TNT tonight. Kiprasov, got his first hat trick, for in the franchise history for the Wild. So, in the postseason, so that's another thing. So so it's going to be really interesting this series. I think this is a pivotal Game 3. So we'll see what happens.
The Wild bounced back into Game 2, especially behind Marc-Andre Fleury. Of course, Game 1, the Blues dominated. So this is going to be a back-and-forth series. I had Minnesota in 6. I'll stick to that. But if you're Minnesota, you just got to steal a game at St. Louis's home ice. Because St. Louis did that to you earlier this week. You're going to do it to them again. So I expect that to happen. We're going to come back on our next show to talk about a 2-2 series.
I think we probably will as well. Edmonton and the Kings also going pivotal Game 3 on TBS. That's the second game of that doubleheader. This should be a fun one. I'm thinking that, like I said, I don't think anybody really expected it to the Kings to steal one, but they did. So Edmonton, this is sort of your time to show what you're made of.
Yeah. With the Kings having home ice, if you're Edmonton, it's possible that you could steal 2 games because the Kings, they're a good team, but they're not the teams that we watched in the past when they were battling the Blackhawks for Stanley Cup titles way back when. This is a young Kings team. They turn over the puck a lot. And with a team like Edmonton, with all those horses on offense, especially with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they can hurt you. And
yes, they can.
So the Kings better be careful. I expect Edmonton to at least win one game at formerly known as Staples Center. We're not going to say that new name, but I wouldn't be shocked if Edmonton got 2. They are the better team in this series, but they can't walk in there thinking they just go sleepwalk through a victory. That's not going to happen. You cannot have that attitude, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, the Kings have players too. Kopitar's been around for a while. Kempe's been
not feeling old.
Yeah, I know, right?
So is he.
God. Those guys, I must say, Kopitar. Oh my God, I remember when this was his rookie year, so that's a little nutty here. But yeah. So I'm wondering. Okay, that'll be a fun series too. But we'll see if the Oilers wake up. Saturday for tomorrow, real quick. You got the Panthers and the Caps. We'll see. At 1-1. Pivotal Game 3 there. That's the only game that'll be on ESPN. That'll be at noon. Remember the times there. The rest of these games will be on TNT. A triple header on TNT. You got Colorado and Nashville, Game 3 of that series. Colorado will try to see if they can seize control of that. The Raiders and the Penguins, that should be a fun one. A pivotal Game 3. That's at 6 o'clock on TNT. And another pivotal Game 3. You got the Flames and the Stars. Another pivotal game. So we'll see which of these teams will take control of their respective series.
All right, and that's your Stanley Cup playoff schedule for this weekend from the National Hockey League. Lakeena, we have to take this time out. We're going to come back and finish strong. We have some sports media news to tell you, to pass along to you, and a whole lot more. And we celebrate an anniversary that took place that took place today in our great city. If my math is correct, 24 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Brain is still sharp. Love it. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to the Friday edition of Second City Sports live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109 the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Friday edition, live in 11 color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We have less than a half hour left remaining in the show for today and for the week. If you want to comment on any of our topics during today's show, you can go to Facebook.com/Chicago Sports Zone Chicago, Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, you say you had some news regarding the NHL or NBA playoff ratings.
Yeah, both all the ratings have actually been really solid for both the NHL playoffs as well as the NBA playoffs. I think like a 6% increase for both. I think having especially with the NHL now having all the games on ESPN, on ESPN2, and also too on. I know Colorado fans were upset because the first game against Nashville, because the Penguins Rangers series with 3 overtimes. That's the one thing. That's the one thing I don't miss about not having the Hawks in the playoffs, because they have to deal with those those long overtimes. But so they had to watch it on ESPN News, and apparently, I guess a lot of people in that region, in Denver, in that area, don't have ESPN News as part of their cable package. So that people were a little upset about that. But yeah, the ratings have been really good, for everybody, for both the NBA and the NHL playoffs, for both Turner and ABC, ESPN. You gotta be feeling pretty good. And it's great to have all the games. You have access to all the NHL games. I got the chance to turn back and forth last night. That was really cool. And if you saw on Wednesday, like I said, Red Tockett, who has 3 of these Stanley Cups, we won't talk about the other stuff. He actually bought the cup I think one of the cups that he has, I think, to the NBA studios. Of course, Shaq, you had over his head.
Yeah.
EJ, who was the anchor of that coverage, you had over his head too. Kenny Smith did it as well, and Charles wanted nothing to do with it. I guess the old wives' tale about if you haven't won the cup, you shouldn't touch it. But that's a whole nother thing. But that was a really cool moment. If you guys get a chance to see that, just go on YouTube. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. But that was a really cool moment. But yeah, good news all around for both Turner and ESPN ABC.
And speaking with ESPN, as we stick with our sports media news segment, Joe Buck, who's going to be the new Monday Night Football announcer next to Troy Aikman coming this fall. Joe Buck is set to make his ESPN debut hosting the PGA Championship alternate feed.
I just saw that this morning, and it's going to be produced by Omaha Productions. That's the Manning Brothers. Yeah, that's the Manning Brothers production company that they have with ESPN. Look, he's done. Look, he did the U.S. Open for Fox for the last few years, so this is he's an avid golfer too. It's not his first time, doing golf. It'll be the PGA Championship, part of that coverage, coming up. So he's going to kind of do like a Manning cast type, I guess. So that's going to be the sort of the style there. Sort of with Michael Collins, who is a great golf analyst, who's a former PGA caddy, and among others. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they do that, because it's gonna be hard to do like a Manning cast style with golf. I know Turner tried to do it with the All-Star game. It was okay, but you kind of wonder, it was sort of kind of like maybe a little bit iffy. But having Buck and also Collins, who's a big, like I said, was a caddy for years in the PGA, an avid golfer himself. I think this will be kind of a good alternative for avid golf fans. Like, this is what this Manning type cast is going to be about.
Yeah, we'll see how the ratings do for that, because like you said, alternate broadcasting is an option for fans, and many fans have taken advantage of it. It depends on what sport, whether it's college football or golf or any other sports. And so we've seen that with the NFL with the Manning cast, which works very well. So we'll see what happens with that, and we'll see what kind of reviews that Joe Buck gets. Now, Lakeena, earlier we talked about baseball and streaming services, and the NFL is getting to one of their international series game between Denver and Jacksonville for the upcoming 22 NFL season. But Sinclair's DTC plans are necessarily aggressive, but may price many fans out. Bally Sports Plus is a necessary evolution for regional sports networks, but it won't be all smooth sailing. This week, Sinclair revealed some more details about its new direct-to-consumer streaming services, carefully called Bally Sports Plus. The service, soft launching this quarter in 5 markets, will cost $19.99 per month or $189.99 per year, where CEO Chris Ripley described this as an attractive price point. There's several conflicts thoughts about the services to launch in this pricing. And Bally Sports regional sports networks can no longer be found on Dish, Sling, Hulu, YouTube TV, or Fubo TV. And it goes on to say that 60% of its respondents in this very scientific Twitter post said that they're definitely not interested in purchasing this service, and they will not pay $20 a month to watch their local teams. Lakeena, we said this before about in the NBC Sports regional channels. We're focusing on Chicago, which we're broadcasting from. Of course, NBC Sports Chicago is home to the Blackhawks, White Sox, and the Bulls. Chicago Bulls, of course. Marquee Sports Network is the exclusive home for the Chicago Cubs. I know for Bally Sports, they used to be the Fox Sports regional affiliates until they sold it a couple of years ago. But now with those Bally Sports regional sports networks, they broadcast hockey, basketball, and baseball, and depending on what market that you're in. But Lakeena, I'll ask this again: with the cord cutting going on for the last several years, it is real. I think people has finally accepted it. But if you cut cable, but you're going to pay $20 or $200 a year to watch your local teams, isn't it just as bad as you might as well go ahead and get cable anyway?
Yeah,
which
you might
includes
as
the channels
well.
that you don't want to watch. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the reverse is happening. I think people who have cut the cord are realizing that, oh wait, you know what? You got to add on, you add on Hulu TV, you got to add on
Mhm.
Apple TV, you got to add on
I'm gonna cancel that and
Amazon.
go to that to get that channel. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
So you might as well have just kept your cable or satellite provider. So I think people are starting to realize that with all the add-ons. So I'm thinking that it's sort of one of those things. Like, yes, I know cable's high, we get it, but I'm
Mhm.
wondering that especially with this thing with this particular part about with us with Sinclair, people who want to see their favorite sports teams in Indiana, Arizona, and Texas and other states that have
Mhm.
Valley Sports Plus, that's going to be they're going to have to figure this out, because if you're going to make folks pay to watch some of their favorite teams, especially locally, that's not going to end well with folks. That might result in some a revolt. And I think especially if you're a regional sports network that don't need the raise, that can't afford to have can afford not to have ratings,
Mhm.
have bad ratings, that's not good.
That's not good. So, like I said, this is only the beginning of this of these stories and coming out about these sports networks trying to do exclusive streaming services. The future is here. The future is now. And we'll see how this all shapes out. So, this is not the last of this. This is only the beginning. So, we'll keep you posted to what's going on with this situation. You listen to Second City Sports Zone Chicago. The Friday edition of Second City Sports. Sid, Lakeena are here with you. Lakeena, FX, the cable channel of Fox, that's been on the air for many years, and they're going to do the Sterling Affairs, which is based on Donald Sterling, the former owner of the NBA's Los Angeles Clippers. Lawrence Fishburne has been casted in this miniseries, I should say, to be a part of this, along with actress Jackie Weaver. But FX has found this guy to play Donald Sterling. Guess who it is?
Well, I already know this 'cause I saw this news earlier, but go
Go
on.
ahead.
It's a familiar name in television. It's Ed O'Neill, of course, star of Modern Family, of course, also to Married with Children. He'll be playing the title role in these Sterling Affairs.
Mhm.
So it's going to be on FX. They're kind of going to do like they did with the Gianni Versace miniseries. Well, actually,
In
a
the old
limited
school
series.
one, which was
The
very
old
good.
school one too, yeah. So which is very all both of them are very good. So I think these are
Mhm.
the same people that are going to be producing this one too. So I expect this to be a really good. And you might get some Emmy nods from from both Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Fishburne and Jackie Weaver, who I'm a big fan of as well. So this
Mhm.
this might be good. And it's a 6 episode series. It's based on the podcast. If you guys remember, that's how all this stuff kind of came about. So it'll be interesting to see how far they go with this. I mean, Jackie's going to be playing Shelley Sterling, Donald Sterling,
Mhm.
and Doc Rivers will be played by Rivers will be played by Lawrence Fishburne. So I'm wondering how far they're going to go with this. Are they going to
And
go?
I'm trying to keep this clean as possible because we're a family show. But how many times that Ed O'Neill's going to have his hands in his pants like he did on
Oh
Married with
yeah.
Children?
He might channel his inner Al Bundy. Oh, of course, we know that. Look, I mean, look, Al Bundy wasn't as racist as Donald Sterling was. So,
Oh no,
no,
he
not
was
at
just
all.
a man's man.
Yeah,
Talking
he
about
was.
Al Bundy. Yep.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do here. And also, too, we'll see how. I wonder how Doc Rivers feels about Lawrence Fishburne playing him, because this is going to be a very interesting take on him. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, it's gonna be interesting how far this goes. But you know, they're aiming high with this, with all this casting decisions and doing this. So look, FX has produced some really award-winning. I know all the previous ones they've done have won awards, they've won Emmys. I know Courtney
Mhm.
B. Vance won for playing Johnny Cochran. I know Derek Chris won for playing. I forgot which role he played in the Johnny Versace miniseries, but yeah, he won an Emmy there. So look, we'll see if the same will happen with with this mini series and with the folks that we mentioned.
All right, back to the NFL. Lakeena, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago while you had to step away. The NFL was thinking about adding a Black Friday game the day after Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
It looks like it's not going to happen this year, but it looks like it may happen in 2023. Lakeena, I didn't get your thoughts on this, but would you like to? It looks like the NFL wants to uh, be in your face almost every night of the week, like college football is. It looks like it may happen in not too so distant future, but would you, after watching 3 games on Thanksgiving Day, would you like to see a Black Friday game in your face?
Yeah, that's a lot. That's kind of like a lot of football, but I think it
That's
depends
always
on the matchup.
saturation, in my
It
opinion.
depends on. I think it depends on the matchup. I mean, if it's a matchup, if it's for like a division, or if it, especially, well, I think the exception is that if you're going to put an Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus. I don't know if you're gonna want to do that, especially with so much. If there is a lot at stake, so they may put like a lesser tier game, if you will, like some of those Christmas games. Like I said, I don't know what the mindset's gonna be, how they're gonna do this, but I know Apple TV's been wanting to get into the stream, the sport with the, of course, Thursday Night Football and such, but it's geez, I don't know.
Because you still have some college football games, some attractive matchups in college
Yeah,
football on that Friday.
a lot of
I know the
rivalry games
NHL has
too.
this Thanksgiving showdown game, which nobody watches, but uh, the college football still dominates the day after Thanksgiving. Like I said, unless it's a lesser tier game that you can put on the exclusive streaming services, you're gonna have a problem.
Well, and I think that's also the thing too. I mean, if you're, especially if if look, Apple TV wants this Black Friday game. Okay, let's give them like a lesser tier game, I guess. I think that's probably the only way you can do is because you don't want your top tier game going into Black Friday, especially with
No.
all the other stuff. I mean, you got all the rivalries in college football and whatnot. So that's going to be another thing. I mean, but especially now with all the conference realignments and everything else,
Mhm.
that's another wrinkle that comes to this. So it's gonna be a lot, but I'm sure that Apple TV is determined to do this. I'll give them credit for that, but it'll be interesting to see what how this goes. But they'll figure it out like they always do in the NFL.
Yeah, sticking with football, it looks like Urban Meyer will be coming back to Fox to do college football coverage. And Jack's owner Shad Khan said on the potential rehire for Fox for Urban Meyer, how can you work with someone like that? Because we all
Yeah,
know we all know
yeah.
how Urban Meyer's first and perhaps only stint in NFL went with the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. We won't rehash all of that, but I was listening to Colin Cowherd and listening to other insiders. This is not a surprise that Urban Meyer is going back to doing some TV work to cover college football. Will he ever coach again in the NFL? No. Will he ever coach again in college football? It may still be a chance, but
Hmm.
he's got to wait this one out for a while, and he's going to have to go to a lower tier program to get this stank off his resume.
That's probably what he's going to have to do. And I kind of figured that this was going to be the case where he was going to have to perhaps maybe go back to television. He was actually really good at that. I know with all the stench that's going on with what happened, transpired with the Jags, especially with Josh Lambeau and all that other stuff that transpired. His players didn't really like him very much.
Hmm.
And like you said, I think he is going to probably have to go to a lower tier division, maybe a Division 2 where he came from, or FCS, so that I'm sure there's going to be a team out there that's probably going to take a chance because that's just what they do. But
Hmm.
it's going to be very interesting, though, and I think how will his colleagues perceive him? How will
Hmm.
everyone else, especially when they start going to the road games, how will he be perceived on the road when they do these sort of
Yeah.
road shows? So a lot to consider there, and again, it's not official yet, but it looks like that's happening, and yeah, we'll see. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and that's why college coaches don't succeed in the NFL. I know before you yell at me, Pete Carroll. Remember, Pete Carroll coached in the NFL a
Before,
couple of times before he went to USC and then came back. Of course, coaches the Seattle Seahawks now. But that's why it's very rare you see college coaches succeed in the NFL because you're trying to treat them like 18 to 22-year-old kids. No, they're grown men that make more money than you. You're not going to be able to get away with that.
yeah, and and all look. Just imagine what the stuff he was doing. If he was doing all this stuff to trying to do that stuff with the NFL guys, I can only imagine what they were trying to do with some of the guys in college. We all
Yeah.
saw what transpired there. So
Yeah.
it's ugh, I have nothing else to say.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And speaking of keeping your hands to yourself, as Damon Sproul, aka D, always said on the D and Davis show,
Mm.
Olin Cruz, who is still employed as of now by NBC Sports Chicago and 670 The Score in Chicago, he was let go by CHGO early this week after allegedly attacking one of his fellow co-workers. It turned out to be Adam Hogue, who was the co-host of the CHO podcast, and uh, we've known Lakeena, Olin Cruz is a passionate guy. He's an intense guy. He's a very intelligent guy as well. But
Mhm.
I don't know if we're ever going to get the full story on what happened. On what happened. Of course, as far as we know, Adam Hoke is not going to press charges. But and that's a good thing for Olin Cruz. But
Mhm.
it's keep your hands to yourself. That's all I had to say about that.
Yeah, I actually was listening to the Sports Adjacent podcast, with our buddies Russ Dorsey, Jason Leisure, of course. Russ Dorsey does their great work there with this at baseball with the stadium and such,
Mm-hmm.
but also too, of course, our buddy Jason Leisure from the Sun Times does a very great job doing the Bears.
Friend of the
Uh,
show.
yeah, friend of the show. We gotta get him back on soon. Also, of course, Tony Gill, who we yell at him sometimes, but we still love him. They kind of shared some stories there about that. Adam Hogue is a very we'll try. I don't know if he'll come on our show, but he is really like a very mild mannered, very like soft
Mm-hmm.
spoken, very smart. Probably one of the best Bears guys that you'll ever see. And this apparently, I guess you saw what happened as he kind of mockingly sort of walked off the set. I'm talking about Olin Cruz during last week's draft. And of course, just as soon as we posted the episode on the podcast version, it comes out that I guess the details. I guess John Greenberg, who does a great job for the Athletic, and I think a couple of other folks actually had the details of it. Apparently, I guess Hogue was doing something kind of jokingly say something, and I guess Olin kind of lost his temper and kind of grabbed his neck, Hogue's neck, I mean, and that's kind of what
Mm-hmm.
transpired there. So I don't know. I mean, if you're Mitch Rosen from the Score, and if you're NBC Sports Chicago, I don't know if you want that kind of thing. They're representing you, especially now that it's out there, the details of it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why CHGO had to do what they did because they didn't want this to, especially them still trying to make a name for themselves. They've only been around a few months. They
Yeah.
don't want this stench to be as a part of as a stain on their brand, and I get that. So
Yeah.
we know that Owen's very fiery. He was not afraid to tell people where to go. We saw his in response to that in the media, Mike Tyson in response to that, but you gotta be smarter here. You can't,
Yeah.
as our buddy Demon said, keep your hands to yourself.
And that goes for everybody. So,
Everyone.
exactly. So, like you said, CHO, that was the only thing they had. They had no other choice but to do this. But like you said, there's some great folks over there. We know most of them,
Yep.
and like you said, they're still trying to make their mark in the market here. So they put out great content. So this is not just about PR, but it's about establishing a culture and establishing just a standard of people cannot be treated that way in the workplace, anywhere in particular, but definitely in the workplace. So that was the only thing they had to do. So like I said, we commend them for it.
Absolutely. And again, I don't think he'll ever apologize because he's a little, we know he's a little stubborn when it comes to that. But I feel like it'll be interesting to see what the other entities are where he's at that, like I said, with the Score, what Mitch Rosen does and what is NBC Sports Chicago, what they do with him and their Bears coverage. He's still a part of that. So that's another thing they got to figure it out.
Yep. Let's end this show on a high note, Lakeena, especially if you're a baseball fan or if you're definitely a Cubs fan. 24 years ago today, Kerry Wood, the rookie pitcher out of the state of Texas, struck out 20 batters against the Houston Astros in a cold spring day at Wrigley Field. Cloudy, not a sellout day at Wrigley Field. I remember watching this game. Lakeena, of course, this was the year that Harry Carey passed away right before spring training. Chip Carey, his grandson, got the job as the TV voice next to Steve Stone. Of course, Chip Carey originally was supposed to do the pre and post game show and make the transition there, but that didn't happen. So the death of Harry Carey changed all that. But this was the big moment for Kerry Wood's career. Of course, he would have many more, but Kerry Wood tied a major league record, striking out 20 Houston Astros batters. Of course, the last guy at that time to do that was Roger Clemens back in 1986, April 1986.
Mhm.
That was part of that season that the Red Sox went to the World Series. Of course, lost to the New York Mets, but Roger Clemens did it back in April in 1986 against the Seattle Mariners. Of course, Kerry Wood was nervous during that post-game interview. I remember that day. I remember I had to go get a haircut, so I was listening to the game at that time on WGN radio. So even though I'm not a Cubs fan, just witnessing and watching and listening to history, it's something that you have to appreciate. And I appreciate history, and not just as a baseball fan, but as a sports fan as well. Of course, if you remember watching that documentary about Kerry Wood, I think you can catch it here on YouTube. He said he started to feel some elbow soreness after that game. Of course, he struck out. I believe his next start against at Arizona, he struck out 13 batters there. Of course, he would win in a Rookie of the Year. Of course, he missed all of 1999 due to Tommy John surgery, but he came back, has still had a good productive career. He was a closer for a while, but that day will live outside of the 2016 World Series for the Cubs. That day individually will live on in infamy.
I I was talking to a friend about this morning, and I did not watch this game live, unfortunately. This is like one of those moments where I wish I had been. Yeah, I had to stay after school that day for something. Don't ask, but but I
You were
remember
doing something productive. You were in school, like you said, so
Yeah.
people don't like it tough.
Yeah, but
Go
yeah,
ahead.
it's still kicking myself for that, and I actually, had to sort of, when I woke up, and again, this was before Facebook. This was Twitter wasn't really a thing yet, so I think we couldn't really. We actually
MySpace
had to
wasn't
watch the
even out.
game.
It was still a decade
Right.
before that.
So none of that stuff was around. So I had to wait till I got home. And when I got home, that it was a top story on all the news, the Chicago news stations, CBS, NBC 5, ABC 7, and Fox 32. They all had that cover. That was like the top story for a while. So in Chicago, of course, ESPN, had it as well. And I think they simulcast it too, from what I've heard. So this was a great moment, and I think, like you said, unfortunately, he started, Kerry Wood. He started, showing some tightness in the elbow right after that game. So, and he wasn't really the same. He was still pretty productive. He went to a couple other teams and was pretty productive, but he just wasn't the same after that. Kid K, as they called him. But I think if you ask him now, and I'm sure they'll probably be asked about that. I'm sure Marquis is going to have some special program. I'm sure they did an interview with him about it. I think he said, look, this is one of those, he'll be known for that forever, and he's okay with that. He actually is an ambassador with the Cubs now too. So he and his wife, they still live in the area with their children. They go to school in the area. So he's still there. You can still see him. So
Yeah, like I said, the Cubs were starting to take off as a team that year. Of course, they got the wild card, being the San Francisco Giants in a one-game playoff. Of course, before being swept by the Braves in that division series that year. But he became not just a local sensation, but a national sensation as well. And so, and plus, it added to that story of that team that year. Of course, Sammy Sosa got in a home run chase with Mark McGwire and King Griffey Jr. So that was another added element in there as well.
Yeah, just some really, really many great things all around in that front. So it's probably one of those games. I'm sure, like I said, especially now that the Dodgers Cubs game has been rained out, they'll probably show that game on Marquee. So if you have Marquee, you might want to check that game out, that classic game, which is still.
Or you can catch it on YouTube right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, or YouTube,
it's on YouTube, folks,
all year round. So it's right there for you. Now, speaking of Marquee, the WNBA season starts tonight with the defending champion Chicago Sky. Now the Sky has a new TV home. They will be part of the Marquee Network. Most of the games will be airing exclusively on the Marquee Network. One of our good friends, friend of the show, Jason Ross, will be a part of that broadcast.
Yay!
It's a blow of not being able to get the Hawks gig, but I think he's done women's college hoops, so this will be a big step for them. Interesting though that they did, decide to go with Marquee, which I know some people still don't have that channel in Chicago, but I guess they had to put it somewhere, especially now that they've won the championship. I'm talking about the Sky, so they probably feel like they didn't have a choice but to put them on there. The first game will be tonight. It'll probably be on here after the Kerry Wood thing. Lisa Byington also too will be part of the TV telecast. Stephen Bardo, of course, got to get him on at some point. And former Northwestern star Megan McKeown will also be an analyst.
Yeah, from the Big Ten Network. Yeah.
Yep. Former Northwestern star too. She's a big part of Northwestern going to the tournament the last couple of years where she was there. So she was a big part of that.
Yeah, so tonight at 7 o'clock on Marquee Sports Network, it's the Chicago Sky hosting the LA Sparks. And of course, if you missed that game, it'll be replayed at midnight.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Having them, go on Marquee.
It's a great thing. It expands your audience, especially like you said, the year after they won the title. There's genuine interest in the city. I know the Sky has been getting a lot of bad PR, and rightfully so throughout the years for them mishandling their business. The one thing that I do have a problem with, not to damper on their parade, they still don't have a radio contract. Especially now after they win. If you're not on a radio station in a big market like Chicago, like we talked about with these other networks are doing, like I think the Oakland A's of baseball are doing this. I know the LA Kings of hockey are doing this. Have exclusive streaming services where people can listen to games on the radio. Because I like to listen to it on the radio, at least check it out. That's how you draw more interest and have new fans be interested in your product. This is common sense. But unfortunately, many people don't operate that way.
Well, and also,
But I
too, of
digress.
course. Well, yeah. Well, also to remember, I guess the new TV deal will be, I think, between like $75 and $100 million. That's the new TV deal for them. And I've heard people.
I think
say
they still
that,
on WCIU. I think once or twice a week as well. I believe.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes. So I think that from what I read from the article itself, I think they're gonna have like 16 games. I think, as well as streaming, and that the non televised, the nationally televised ones, they're gonna be through their Plus network and on their app, Marquee Sports Network app. So you'll get to be able to see it somewhere. But yeah, I think this is a good way to kind of grow the brands, and I think marketing is such. Look, if you build it, they will come, as they say. But again, you said on the radio side, I think they are going to have to think about that too. But again, I think they're just starting to kind of get going on the TV side as well. Like I said before, the next TV contract could be up to $100 million, and that's huge for them.
Yeah.
So I guess baby steps. Where would you put it though? Because you got ESPN, ESPN Chicago. Yes, they're not off that, but they still got other national commitments. It's going to be hard to try to put the games on there. I know the Score. I know they would probably love to put the Sky on there, but again, they got commitments with the Bulls. They got commitments with the Bears. They got commitments with the Cubs, and I think also DePaul basketball as well. So
yeah,
and I think some Illinois basketball too, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's on WLS.
LS, okay, gotta make sure.
The AM side.
The AM version, of WLS. That might be a nice place for them to be at. That might be. Look, a lot of people can get it either terrestrially or digitally. So you got all the other. I'm sure they have their own app too, WLS A90. So maybe that's probably a place where they can go. But I don't think. I think maybe only one WNBA team is on the radio. I think, but again, I might be off here. But
yeah, but
think about.
Yeah, it is definitely something to think about. Like I said, you got to get with the times or the times will get you. Lakeena, it's been another great show on Second City Sports, wrapping up the week right here, live in Living Color Sports Zone Chicago. Yours truly is looking forward to another great weekend of baseball, playoff basketball, and hockey. Yours truly will be at the friendly confines in the morning to catch the first game of the doubleheader between the Dodgers and the Cubs. Follow me on social media. You'll know why I'm going to be there. I'll leave you with a cliffhanger on that.
All right, I'm going to be joining some of the games both tonight and tomorrow, all weekend long with the NHL and NBA playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun in that front. So it's going to be so much fun. The Wells Fargo Championship's going on right now for all you golf fans. I know our girl Christine Manica, I'm sure she'll be looking forward to her. I'll be watching that.
Yeah, she'll be on with us next week.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll have some great analysis on that front. Also, too, you got all the soccer matchups coming up. All the European leagues are finishing up their seasons too. So some great matches this weekend too. So a lot of great sports all around. So it should be a whole lot of fun. I know it's going to be raining in some parts of the area, so it might be hard for some of these games to get in, but even still, regardless, check some of these games out on all the platforms and such. With that said, you follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
Make sure you follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Catch Second City Sports, the podcast edition, subscribe to War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Make sure you catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, live right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as you young folks would say. Catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, folks, enjoy all the games, everybody. If you're not going to get, vaccinated, wash your hands, wear your mask, and be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday.
Till then, go Sox. Holla!